Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Cropper here. I just want to stick my neck out on the idea of a recession. Whether or not there's going to be a recession, we have an inverted yield curve, and that always predates a recession. So, here we have an article from Seeking Alpha, why today's inverted yield curve isn't necessarily a recession warning. And I just want to point out a few things about this. Look, the United States of America is the safe place on the whole planet. The entire planet. It's not the safe space for the Western Hemisphere, but then Europe invests in itself or something like that. It's not like China has any place to invest. It can't invest in itself. It can't invest in India. It can't invest in Japan. India can't invest in itself. The only really safe, long-term place to put your money so that it doesn't go down, disappear, is America. Maybe a little bit in Canada, but not so much. Mostly America. Canada is very high tax. So, we have that going for us. We have a lot of wealth that's going to be coming into this country as stability becomes more and more questionable. To the extent that stability is in question, people will put their money in America. Not only companies here repatriating money to America, but people from all over the world investing their money in America however they can get their money invested. Even just buying property, buying houses, buying apartments, buying securities, anything that they can get. Okay? An inverted yield, now I'm quoting, an inverted yield curve is not the cause of a recession. Rather, it reflects the market's view of how likely one is. That's important to remember. Now, if that's the case, and there's a whole bunch of fake news going around about what the future of the economy is likely to be, here we are with some of the lowest unemployment rates we've ever seen in the history of the country, and oh, we're going to have a recession. No, yeah, could be. It could be coming. Right? Just remember that an inverted yield curve is what people think is coming, and they might be deluded. They might be thinking about fake news. Alright, with anxiety running high and the global political environment providing real reasons to be anxious, investors will keep worrying about a recession risk. That will keep conditions volatile for this foreseeable future. Now, it's not the case that worrying about a recession risk will keep things volatile. It's the actual risk of recession and what is around that for the foreseeable future. But it doesn't mean that the markets won't provide opportunities for good returns. Now, that's really the question of a recession. If, let's say, nightmare scenario, tariffs go on. Let's say they're not as bad as the 1928 tariffs. Let's say tariffs go on. Let's say they're selective and they're pretty small. And let's say it causes a contraction in the economy. One of the results of that contraction will be reinvestment in America to prevent these tariffs in future business, prevent these tariffs causing future business problems. Why do we see huge growth in the American manufacturing sector? Because companies are repatriating to America. They're opening up, for one thing, because of cheap energy prices. For another thing, because Europe's falling to pieces. For a third thing, for economic and legal security, which you don't have in China. Okay, so there are several reasons. 10, 15 years ago it was all a fad. Everybody go to China. Everybody went to China. They all found out what happens in China. They found out that the government forces you to hand over all your patents to them and things like this. And a lot of companies came back or left or ended up not going in the end because of that. Some repatriation will be happening, especially as China clamps down, and that's been happening more and more. So we can expect some repatriation of funds and productive activity from China. We can expect the continuing scurrying rat race out of Europe. That's going to continue. You know, there are these news articles about, what was it? It was either in France, let's see, I think it was a British news, yeah, it was a British, in London, it was a news article in London about all the millionaires leaving France and moving to London. Like dozens of them, you know, like 112 in the last 60 weeks or something like this, you know. And ignoring the mass exodus of millionaires and billionaires from London and Paris to the United States and to Israel. Alright, so that's funny. Yeah, Europe is a sinking ship and everybody's trying to get out of it. China is a mousetrap and they're closing down and clamping. The United States is the safe space. It's the safe space for money. It's the safe space for free people. So, I don't know if this expectation of a recession, the view of how likely a recession is, I don't know if that's accurate. Now, is it possible for America to thrive in a shrinking world economy? Certainly not as thriving as we would have been in a thriving world economy. But I just want to hang my hat out right here and say, I doubt that the future of the American economic situation is as grim as that, as recession. I think it's going to be pretty good for us. I don't think it's a very rosy scene in Europe, and I don't think it's very rosy in China. I've been saying China's a fascist hag for more than 10 years now. I don't think things look good over there, but I think things look good in America, and I'm hanging my hat out on it right now. That's my prediction. So let's see how well my philosophical view of things allows me to see into the future on this one. Let's see whether we have a big recession or continue with a pretty robust economy as China and Europe fall apart. Let's see.